so anxious when pressing the live button.
Express any political view on a TikTok, and after that, you'll never get anxious about doing anything again, just because it'll wind up being such an unpleasant experience to read the comments afterward.
It doesn't even need to be political, to be honest with you. It just needs to be a hot take on anything popular.
Somebody asked, are the Githyanki supposed to be evil? And somehow that became a hot take. Like, not that he expressed an opinion, but just that he asked the question. People were legitimately mad at this person.
Really?
You should,
They're asking a question.
Benny, you should tell them about how you decided to pronounce Githyanki for a few videos. The pronunciation that almost led me to kill you in real life.
Of course.
Canonically, we have no proof that the Githzerai don't pronounce it as Jith. I'm just saying.
Blah, 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 blah. Testing, testing. Okay.
All right, Dylan, we
not
need your
hearing mine.
sexy
There it
late
is.
radio voice.
My what?
Everybody's got a sexy late night radio voice.
Oh God. Hey, I get paid like $10 an hour here. We're gonna talk about the news and hopefully don't die from caffeine overdose. Am I sexy yet?
Ooh, baby.
I would like to respectfully inform everyone that that is not at all the voice he tends to use for any sort of radio or macho character. Anyway, welcome everyone to this wonderful, chaotic goblin campaign. We're about to begin with episode 2. I hope you all are having a wonderful time. Welcome to Purgatory Corner, the Library of Dreams, and we're at a section of it called the Tables of Tartarus, and I very much screwed up this introduction, but that's fine. It's fun to keep it unique and new. Anyhow, enough of me. We're going on to Benny to continue this wonderful story.
Good evening. Thank you for having me on. And I didn't detect anything particularly wrong with that introduction, but I'm not an expert on such things. So our illustrious party of 4 goblins from the swamp is from a community that's dealing with a plague among the goblins in their swamp. And as if that wasn't bad enough, the local hobgoblins have been having some recruiting issues, so they decided to take people by force rather than simply recruiting goblins for whatever raids and so on they wanted to do. But our illustrious party managed to see the goblins and their bugbear associates off. And oddly, for a community as disorganized as goblins, they acted in true corporate fashion, which is that when our party displayed competence, they were rewarded with more work. Specifically, their work is to go to the local human settlement, break into the Temple of Daenerys, the knowledge god, and attempt to locate any relevant information about this disease. The goblin leadership seems to feel that the humans have some knowledge that the goblins can use. At the start of every one of my sessions, I like to ask a question for each of the player characters to answer. So when you introduce your character, if you could please tell us your class, maybe a sentence or two about the character, and then answer the question. It's exceedingly rare for goblins to stand up to hobgoblins and or bugbears, and rarer still for them to win when they do it. So we'll start with Notlatch. How do you feel about this? Are you feeling emboldened? Are you feeling, holy shit, what did I do? Are you feeling, oh my god, I almost died? What's Notlatch's take on this?
Oh, it's definitely like a mix of those last two, and I think after the attack, a little bit jumpy, until they made it out of the forest, at least, because it meant it could come from anywhere at any time, especially because bugbears are so good at hiding.
Fair enough. And could you remind us what Notlatch's class is?
Notlatch is a rogue.
All right. And we're going to go on to, I believe your character's name is Erev.
Yes, that is correct. And Erev's takeaway is basically that bugbears and hobgoblins and all that aren't exactly what they've cracked up to be. Like, she's very overconfident after that. And she is a monk, by the way.
Oh. All right. And that will bring us to Klasky.
So after that surprising battle, Klasky is not really phased by it. She's also a bit overconfident because there was so much built up for these evil monsters and such. And it's like, oh, okay, it's not that big of a deal. Whatever. I'm just gonna do what I do best and protect my family and keep thieving. Klasky is a good old-fashioned rogue.
All right.
Very protective of her brother.
Fair enough. And that finally brings us to Claus.
So Klez is a bard, first of all, but I feel like with the hobgoblins, he's traveled around a little bit. He's not necessarily a seasoned adventurer, but he's gone through a couple things, and at this point, I don't think he'd care that much about the hobgoblins. Yeah, they're dangerous, but he's seen a few worse things,
So maybe he has a healthy respect for them, but this wasn't his first rodeo kind of thing?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
All right. Thank you all for that. Now, where we had left off, you all had managed to sneak into town on a hay wagon. It's early in the day. Your journey is meant to take you to the temple, which is essentially at the center of this bustling town. So there's the logistical question of how are you going to get there? Because the hay wagon is not, in fact, going directly to their main holy site. It's going to a market on the other side of town. You can slip off easily enough. The question, though, is the group going to find a place to hide and just wait it out and try to sneak in under the cover of night, knowing that humans won't be particularly active then? Are you going to try to somehow bluff your way into this place to try to get what you need while the human, mostly human parishioners and clerics and so forth are about? Are you going to do something I haven't thought of? I leave it to the group to come up with your solution to your situation.
Well, we all seem pretty stealthy. I say we should just try and sneak in at night.
I second that one.
I agree, though I think we should go with our kind of stealthing, not your kind of stealthing, Claus. No offense, but I don't think we can flirt our way through.
Well, I can hide in their shadows just like you can.
Yeah, I was quite impressed that you successfully managed to hide in that hay wagon. Well, convinced the guy to help us get in, but you weren't too successful through the woods, were you?
Just because I don't roll around in mud like the rest of you doesn't mean I'm bad at sneaking. Okay?
Hate to pretty up that pretty little face of yours. The money maker and the eye catcher. Oh, woe is you.
Hey, this handsome mug has made me quite a few coins.
Uh-huh. Anyway, We should definitely try to sneak our way in when there's less population of humans around. I'd hate to see what they're like.
Agreed.
All right, so everybody seems to be on board with the idea of hiding out for the day. Anyone who wants to, give us a perception check, with the intention being that you're trying to find some place to hide.
Sure, I have high wisdom. I'll give a shot at that.
I got a 17.
Okay.
I got a 6, so
Oh no.
On a 6, tragically, someone's Clydesdale horse, if you're not familiar, Clydesdale is one of the largest breeds of horse that there is.
Oh
somebody's
no.
Clydesdale horse has passed away, and the owner saw fit to just leave it lying in the road. It is big enough that the four of you could probably fit under it and just be hidden for the day, and it wouldn't smell any worse than the swamp you're from. Klaus, on a you said 17, I believe.
Yes.
On a 17, you look past the deceased horse and see the abandoned house that the deceased horse was probably employed removing stuff from. And from what you can see, this is a large empty house that nobody is currently occupying, that you can, should you so choose, recommend the party take shelter in.
It looks like that house over there is abandoned. Maybe we could hide out over there.
I think that would be a good idea.
Never been in one of those.
All right, it's decided
I
then.
heard they're quite cozy, so, and they have all sorts of stuff inside sometimes.
Okay, so with 2 rogues in the party, I'm going to say you all managed to make your way into the building easily enough. Once inside, you find a home that I don't know that anybody in the party except Claus would necessarily know this. You find a home that was very nice, even luxurious in its heyday. There's still some furniture left around, but it's just run down and broken. Like, stuff was clearly left behind for a reason. For example, there's a sofa with some ripped cushions and a broken leg just kind of sitting awkwardly on the floor. There's some old tattered clothing laying around, and there are some other tables and things like that that have water damage from what was your best guess is it was from a leak in the roof. Does anybody want to do any exploring or do anything in particular as you're getting acquainted with your temporary home?
Is that a couch? Oh my gosh. And Klaus will immediately run to the couch and flop. Oh, it's so cozy.
Erev is going to scout out the house just to make sure there's no one around.
Go ahead and make an investigation check.
Uh, 19.
Okay. On a 19, so first and foremost, what you stated you were looking for, you are quite confident that you're the only sentient beings in this house. There might be some mice or something like that, but as far as anything that by any definition could be described as people, you're it. Also, you don't find anything particularly that you would consider threatening. The place is well and truly abandoned, and by the standards of abandoned buildings, as safe as one could be. Now, the place has a cellar, which is empty. On a 19, I'm going to say that you notice that one of the steps to the cellar is loose.
All right, I'm gonna see if I can't like pull up the step at all.
All right. You do that. What you're able to assess pretty quickly is that it wasn't nailed down. It was more like it was slotted in place, and it wasn't loose from being broken. It was just never solidly attached. Beneath this, you find a small box. When I say small, I mean, like it would be big enough to fit a human-sized lunch. Like you could put somebody could have used it as a lunch bag. And are you opening the box, or are you bringing it back to your teammates? I don't want to assume anything here.
I'm gonna open it.
All right. You find the following things. You find 10 gold pieces. They're marked with in a way that you don't recognize. I assume Erev hasn't necessarily handled a whole lot of money in her time, but you would have an idea of what it is, at least conceptually. And the images that are stamped on the coins aren't familiar to you, nor is the script on them. The script has the scripts you've seen has a blocky quality to it. This script is much more loopy and flowing. In addition to that, what languages does Erev speak?
Erev speaks Common and Orcish.
Okay. In addition to Goblin. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. There is also a note that's written in the similar flowing script that you can't immediately identify. And it kind of in a small rolled up parchment. And in addition to all of that, you find a +1 to attack and damage magical dagger of not just fine make in the sense that it's a nice, well-weighted dagger, but there was a lot of care taken in, like there's some design work on the blade. There's some filigree worked into the handle. Like somebody really made a labor of love out of making this dagger.
All right, I'm going to pocket all of that.
Okay. Are you going to inform your teammates of what you found or no?
Under no circumstances is that happening.
Fair enough. All right. So ostensibly, Erev returns from scouting out the house and gives the all clear. Is there anything anybody else wants to do before you take your rest?
I know this could potentially be a lot of trouble, but did we see at all anything that looked like a market when we were like scurrying over to this house?
Yes, you did, and it's not far away from where you are. The way I'm picturing this is when the hay wagon started to slow down to get to the market where they were going to deposit their hay was when you would have gotten off.
So I'm going to sneak away from the party, and I'm going to go and try and pilfer a rapier back for Claus.
Okay. You can do that. And you said you're trying to sneak, or are you trying to sneak away in such a way that the party doesn't know that you're sneaking away?
Yes, because I'm pretty sure Klasky would try to stop me.
All right. In that case, we will need a stealth check.
Oh, baby. $12.
What's everybody's passive perception?
Higher than 12. 14.
Plasky is 15.
And Claus?
At 13.
All right. Yeah, so basically, as you're trying to sneak out, you step on a creaky floorboard, and everybody immediately knows that everybody immediately sees you heading for a door.
Where do you think you're going?
Trying to leave without us?
I don't say anything. I bolt.
You dirty rat! Get your butt back over here!
I'll be right back.
So, yeah, Notlatch has just run out the door. What's everybody doing?
I'm just gonna sit back on the couch.
Plasky's following him.
Okay.
Claus is just gonna hang out. Notlatch is a big boy. He can handle himself.
All right. So,
Such a loving brother.
Look. Baby birds have to leave the nest at some point.
I love that the in real life younger brother is playing an older brother role, and it's so fitting.
All right. So, Klowski, are you trying to catch Notlatch and stop him, or are you just trying to go with him wherever he's going?
She's just gonna go with him.
Okay. In that case, I'll have you both make another stealth check, please.
That will be an unnatural 22 for Klasky.
Okay.
That's actually the same for me. I got a 22.
Nice.
Okay. So you both essentially disappear into the shadows. There are people walking past you within arm's reach who are just absolutely oblivious to your presence. You said you're looking for a rapier. Is your plan to attempt to purchase one or to attempt to steal one, or something I haven't thought of?
I don't have any money, so I'm probably going to be stealing this thing.
Okay. Well, you both rolled very high on your stealth, so I'm going to say you're able to make your way into the market. And you do find a stall where someone is selling weapons. It's not anything of particularly high quality, but it's certainly of a higher quality than goblins typically make or would have access to. And that includes at least one rapier. And if you want to attempt to steal one, you'll need to go ahead and make a sleight of hand check.
Is there
Klasky will happily help.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Is there like a group of people near the front of the stall, like moving around and stuff?
So it's the morning in a market town, so there's definitely people moving around. And because this guy is selling weapons, there's definitely people there who are more window shopping than anything else. So there's definitely plenty of activity around. And I believe, Klowski, you were asking, can you do some variation of the help action to give advantage? To which the answer is yes, absolutely.
All right. All right, then. Advantage it is. Here we go. Well, it's a good thing I had advantage. That is another 12.
With advantage?
With advantage.
Oh no.
Okay. So You find a spot where there is a rapier near the edge of the table, and you reach up to grab said rapier, and a firm hand grasps your arm. Go ahead and give us an athletics check, please.
I'm thoroughly proficient in.
You're 2.5 feet tall against a grown man. I'm sure this is going to go well for you.
14.
All right, Klowski, your brother is now firmly in the grip of an angry human shopkeep, and there's some spreading panic isn't the right word. Some spreading commotion of what everybody would have perceived immediately is just a very small person trying to grab something off this table, and the merchant having grabbed their arm. But it's not going to take very long for everybody to figure out that, hey, there are goblins in this town. What are you doing?
She's going to quickly cause a ruckus and start like running in between people and making things fall to pull the attention away.
Make a performance check.
Unnatural 23?
Okay, yeah, you pretty much grab the attention of the whole entire market. And Notlatch, I'll allow this as sleight of hand because instead of trying to just physically overpower the person to pull your arm away, I could see you trying to wriggle out of it. So you can either do athletics or sleight of hand to try again to escape.
Yeah, we'll do sleight of hand. Let's see if I can do this without trying to stab him in the hand.
Oh no.
Oof, this is a solid 9. The dice are not happy with me today.
Oh no.
All right. So on a solid 9, he basically pulls you behind the stall, and there's just this look of confusion in his eyes. He knows what a goblin is, but he's not used to seeing them here. He's just. It's hard to describe exactly what the feeling is, but basically, if you pictured a bad person from some other country, it would be like an American finding a member of the Taliban trying to shoplift from them, just like a WTF kind of moment that he's having. What do you do?
In that moment, in that stunned moment, I'm going to take. I'm actually going to take one of my blowgun darts, and I'm gonna shove it into his hand that's holding me. Okay. He still only has me by one hand, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
All right. So go ahead and make an attack roll, and because of the circumstances you're in, and he's not wearing armor or anything, I'll say you have advantage.
Ooh. Thank goodness for the advantage. 22.
Yeah, that definitely hits. Roll up your damage.
So it actually doesn't. I don't roll damage on the blowgun darts normally, unless I've poisoned it, and I don't think I've poisoned them already today. So it's just 4 damage to his hand.
Okay. This guy's a peasant with no special abilities, so that's a significant injury for him. He just reels backwards, gripping his now mangled hand.
Oh fuck, that must be my brother.
Table, grab the rapier and book it.
Klasky follows, stealthily trying at least.
Okay, so Klowski, since you're not right in the midst of this. I'm not going to have you roll anything. You'll have made your commotion and had a chance to find your way back to the shadows by now. Not Latch. Go ahead and I guess we'll call this make a dexterity saving throw.
Actually, not too shabby. That's a 17.
All right. How tall did you say Not Latch is?
2'7.5".
7.5.
Half-inch attitude.
Which works out to about 31 inches, which means that this rapier is 9 inches pommeled the tip of the blade. This rapier is 9 inches longer than you are tall, so I assume you're effectively dragging
I'm
this
carrying
thing.
it like horizontally. I got both arms wrapped around it.
Yeah. So yeah, you're just kind of running through the market, and there's between the commotion that Klowski caused and just the oddness of the scene, nobody really reacts too quickly. One person is going to attempt to trip you, so go ahead and make another dexterity save.
Natural 20.
All right. Yep. You basically just, it's the kind of thing where you don't even move to avoid them. You're just, your natural stride goes over where they're trying to trip you. And you manage to make it into an alley. And the shopkeep, there's some commotion is starting up behind you as people are realizing that this merchant is pretty seriously hurt and has been stolen from, and there are goblins in their town and so on. But the commotion doesn't translate to anybody chasing after you. And Klowski, you're able to reunite with your brother. Now, back at the house, Erev and Klaus, you're going to have heard that there was some commotion outside. Are you responding to that in any way?
Absolutely not.
Baron.
Really feel like I should go check that out. Could be my siblings getting into trouble. And he'll kind of sneakily take a look outside. Are we close to the market?
You're almost across the street from it, so you would definitely see the commotion going on.
But I see no signs of my siblings.
Not immediately. Not much. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I assume that you would be getting into a position where you could hide as soon as you possibly could.
Pretty much.
So, Klaus, go ahead and give us a perception check. See if you see your hidden siblings.
It's gonna be a 5.
Well,
Yeah. So you are able to assess that the vendor who's selling cabbages is in fact selling cabbages, and that's about it.
My cabbages.
He'll probably sneak around the edges, away from the light, and see if he can find them, since he didn't immediately see them.
Klowski and Notlatch, are you heading back to the house, or are you trying to find somewhere else to hide?
My plan is going to be to sort of like hop from hiding spot to hiding spot until we can zip across the street to get into the house.
Okay.
Yeah, and Klasky will make sure that happens, even if she has to cause a ruckus or two.
All right. So you all managed to do that. So basically, you find Klaus opening the door in his beginnings of searching for you.
You do care.
Oh, don't give me that.
I
Get your S's inside. Jeez.
got you something.
What? You got me something.
I hand him the rapier.
He risked his life for this rapier.
Class kind of ruffles Notlatch's hair. Like, come on, kid. You did good, though. You did good. I'm impressed. You did get caught, but I'm impressed.
So you all have managed to acquire a rapier to replace the one that was taken from Klaus on your way here. But there is now a new problem, which is that out the windows of this house, you can see people are starting to search, and people with daggers and so forth are starting to search. And given what just happened, it's not too hard to tell what it is they're starting to search for. It's not clear if your hiding space being so close to the market is going to be safe. So you can either stay here, hope for the best, maybe find a better hiding space within the hiding space, as it were, or you can abandon it and try to hide somewhere else.
Well, it looks like karma's coming to bite us on our green asses. We can barricade, or we can try to find another spot. Though, Notlatch here wasn't too good at his sneaking about, so...
I was nervous.
We better just move. Honestly, barricade won't do very much. If they find out we're here, they'll get in. Might as well just leave and find a different place, I guess.
Maybe the stables down the street?
Don't really fancy hiding with horses, but oh well. Bakers can't be choosers.
Uh-huh, and you're a goblin like us, so it'll be okay. I'm sure the horses would clean up your pretty face if it gets dirty.
Erev, do you have anything to contribute to this conversation?
Not especially.
Okay. All right, so your plan is to make your way to the stables down the street and just try to find somewhere there to hide out?
Yeah.
All right. So you managed to do this. I assume you all managed to be stealthy as you're doing it, and the stables aren't particularly well guarded, so you're able to sneak in, and at least you're able to take refuge under a living horse instead of a dead one. So it does represent something of an improvement over what might have been. And in that condition, you all pretty much go to sleep for the day. You wake up in the late afternoon, and you managed to avoid detection up till now. I assume you set a watch or something like that. And it's starting to get dark out. Is there anything you all will want to do before you start making your way to the temple?
Was that a long rest, by the way?
Yeah, that'll count as a long rest.
Well, I'm sure Okay, anyway, Ruby had her opinions.
And
I'm sure it wouldn't
Nothing
hurt
to-
having a sleeping potion or two, or a poison on the daggers.
I've got this magical dagger, so I'm kind of all set.
Ooh.
Well, aren't you spoiled?
Cloud, your travels, would you imagine you're traveled enough to have spent some time around various kinds of people, like gnomes and dwarves and elves and stuff like that?
Yeah, anyone who's like in common places.
Okay.
That's something.
All right. So you recognize that what Erev is holding is a fairly well-made elvish dagger.
Oh,
What do you like?
hey,
Yeah.
that's a nice toy you got there.
Yes, it is.
Where did you get it from?
Not important.
You're boring. All right then. Is it worth a lot?
I don't know.
You got a lot of secrets, don't you?
Maybe.
And you don't like answering questions.
Accurate.
Brother, if you're like this with other people, especially women, it's kind of sad to watch.
Excuse me, but I'm not flirting. I'm trying to get some answers.
I could
Klasky,
get better answers with my dagger.
Sorry, did you want to threaten our teammate?
We should really get going, as I'm applying poison to the to blowgun darts and both of my daggers.
Yeah, we should probably get going. Any other preparations you guys need to do? I'm all good.
Good to go.
I'm ready.
All right, that's it.
I'm ready.
So in the failing light, it's particularly easy for you all to sneak through town. As you all are reaching the temple, it seems like the evening service has just let out. So there are a few stragglers who are leaving, but you actually see a cleric who looks like a junior cleric is locking up and walking away. The temple is not a massive structure, but it is big enough to hold a modest library. So you figure it's as big as, we'll say, a large house. And it sits in the middle of a city square. But the city square is, things are winding down for the evening. There's not a lot of nightlife here. And you more or less have the area to yourself, and it's dark enough that you can move, if not unseen, at least unrecognized. People will think that you're, children or gnomes or something.
All right, let's look for a way in. And he kind of, is it like separate? Like, can he fully walk around the building?
Sure, you can go ahead and make a circuit of the building, or have the group fan out and each report back with their own observations. There are a couple of obvious entrances, which you're pretty confident are locked at this point. One of them is a large double door like you would expect to see on really any house of worship. And then on the side, there's something that's more like a servant's entrance, which is most likely also locked because you did see someone locking up as you were arriving. And for anything else or any more information, anyone who wants to can make an investigation check.
I was lucky the last time. I'll see what I can do. 17.
17. So on a
3.
17, I'm sorry, what was that?
3.
I got 17 also.
Yeah. What was that? Not much.
What the hell? I'll join in on the rolling. Yeah, never mind.
What'd you get?
It was a 7.
Okay. Yeah, so 3 and a 7 don't yield you any new information. The 17s actually don't yield you much new information either. There are some windows that hypothetically, with the right equipment, you could get to, but for practical purposes, they're out of reach. What you do notice, though, is that there's what appears to be town guards moving through the square, and where they're moving through is closer to the main entrance. So the servants' entrance, though, or the side entrance, is nobody seems to be looking that way. You're able to determine that if you try to get in through that, at least nobody's going to immediately try to stop you.
So what do we think?
Well, we're certainly not arriving here as guests, so the front door is out of the option. But it seems like I'm sure there's a specific entryway on the side we can enter.
Well, then let's go for it. Get this thing over with.
Yes, so you can go back to your running around.
Absolutely.
She rolls her eyes and starts looking for the servant door.
Okay, so you make your way there easily enough, and it's locked. So, are you going to try to pick the lock, or what are you doing?
Yes. She'll take out her lockpicking tools and try to pick it.
All right. So, where is the rest of the party while this is going on? Are the three of you all just kind of standing right behind her, or what are you doing?
He'd be right behind her, but looking around, keeping an eye out.
Okay. Klasky, you have to, even being a goblin, you do have to kneel down slightly to get to the right alignment to get your lockpicking tools to the lock. And just as you're about to insert them, the door opens inward, and who you see standing there is a human close to 6 feet tall. He is older by human standards, probably in his 60s, with very short gray hair, mostly bald, very clean cut, clean shaven, and in a very clean but very plain gray robe. And despite his age, he stands pretty straight and just seems to have a general sense of confidence and purpose about him. And so he opens the door to see the four of you, and he just says, "Good evening. Can I help you?"
Claes kind of pushes his way forward a little bit. Hey, we're traveling, and we were interested in this house of worship. We've never seen one before. We were hoping to take a look around and get some information, like its history, what deity, that sort of thing.
Okay.
While he's doing that, is it possible for me to sneak a blow dart to Plasky? Because I think you said you have sleeping potions or something like that.
Yes.
And sort of I guess hope that she figures out what I'm trying to do.
All right. So go ahead and make a sleight of hand check.
It's a 14.
All right. So, Klaus, the monk or whatever he is who you've addressed is going to nod, and he's going to glance past you at your brother at Notlash, and he's going to say, "None of that will be necessary. All who seek knowledge are welcome in the Temple of Denair. Please." And he kind of steps aside and gestures for you to enter.
Klaus enters with a smile and a nod.
Class Key will duck her hood down a bit more and just follow after her brother.
Not Latch is going to keep an eye on the guy because he still doesn't trust him, and follow in after the other two.
Okay. Erev, what are you doing?
I mean, Erev is following along.
Okay. So he closes the door and locks it behind you, and he walks up alongside you, Klaus, and he starts to tell you just a bit about Daenerys as a deity of primarily of knowledge, but also of medicine. And theoretically, Daenerys' domain could be almost anything if it's something you're trying to learn about. So a war domain cleric of Daenerys would be somebody who would be more like a master fencer than, let's say, a barbarian. And he continues to talk a bit about the history of the temple and how it got to be here. Frankly, none of it's that interesting. Just happen to be humans who worship Daenerys in the area, and because it's a trade town, a lot of different people from a lot of different places do come this way. As you all are walking and talking, he leads you all into what in a normal temple would be a sanctuary. In this particular sanctuary, though, it's more like, instead of church pews, there's shelves upon shelves of books. And the symbol of Daenerys is a lit candle over an open eye. And at the front of the room, so there's the main part of the room is open, kind of a straight shot to the back with rows of bookshelves on either side and comfortable chairs where one might sit and read. But at the back of the room is the altar, which is in the shape of a candle. It's marble that's been carved into the shape of a lit candle. Do you want to ask him anything, or is there any particular kind of interaction you want to have with this person as you're entering this space?
For the most part, it'd be sort of unimportant questions like history and things he doesn't really care about, but just keeping the conversation going.
Okay. At some point during this person is going to mention, he's going to say, I don't want you to overestimate my role here at the temple. I am not a cleric or anything. I am just the night attendant. I come through and clean up after the services, and pilgrims do occasionally come in after hours. So I take care of those who are in need of it. If you are truly here on a quest for knowledge, then you may approach the altar and say a prayer to Daenerys, and the library will be open to you.
How do we do that?
Do you not have deities of your own, Master Goblin? Have you never beseeched a higher power for help?
I mean, why would we look up to such a thing if basically what I'm saying, tall human. If there was such a thing, we wouldn't be in such a rut ourselves and have to go such length to even come here if we believed in such a thing and it was real. Because if they're so wonderful and great, why didn't they save our parents from a disease? I'm just saying, doesn't make sense. What makes sense is survival with what you can see and what you can do. If there are such greater things, then where are they? You know?
It is a fair question, especially from coming from one who has suffered loss such as you have. And please do correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that most of goblin kind and goblin kin worship the deity Maglubiet, who is not overly concerned with the fate of your people as individuals or as a group. Does that sound roughly correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's about right.
I mean, yeah, so why believe in another thing? What's the point?
Well, it's not for me to tell you your theology. I will tell you there are other powers in this world. Not only other powers, he pulls a book off of a shelf and he opens it up, and it falls open to a page that reveals the great wheel cosmology. And he explains a little bit about the different planes of existence and what they represent in terms of alignment. And so he's going to explain to you that the plane that Magubliet hails from is a plane of essentially chaos and death. So not necessarily anyone from there is going to be overly interested in offering aid, especially not to something as, from the point of view of the deity, as small and weak as a goblin, as opposed to, and he's going to point to the higher planes, the planes that are associated with good alignments, where they are much more interested in helping people for the sake of helping them. And he's going to conclude by saying, I can't promise that Daenerys or any other god in particular will answer your prayers or anyone else's. If every goodly god answered every goodly person's prayer, then the world would be perfect. I don't claim to understand all of their workings. What I will tell you is that belief can be a balm in times of hurt, and saying a prayer to a god who might be listening, well, there are worse things to do. And in any case, even if you find no relief from the god himself, saying a prayer does give you access to the library.
Well, what do I have to lose? I'll give it a go.
Okay.
He
You're totally
walks.
gonna get shot by lightning.
Shh.
I heard that's what happens sometimes.
He kneels down by the altar, kind of shuts his eyes, and probably gets very lost in thought, but not really praying at all.
Okay. What is everybody else doing while this is happening?
I think Notlatch is actually going to go up to the altar. I mean, this is payment to get in, basically, right?
Okay.
And he's just... Go ahead.
Erev is basically just going to be watching from afar. Faith is not her forte.
Okay. And how about Klowski?
Klasky will kind of watch for a moment and follow after her brothers
Okay.
and do the same.
Okay. So, Klowski, when you're about halfway to the altar, and when Notlatch and Clouds have essentially reached it and started to kneel, the floor splits open, and what you find yourself standing on is an enormous eye. And for scale, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you'll get a sense of what you're standing on. Are you all able to see that?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
You?
that's not.
So, Klowski, this is you right next to the iris and pupil. Erev, this is you hanging back at the far end of the room, but just inside the rim of what opened. And then Klaus and Notlatch, that's the two of you up there. So, around the edge of the eye is written script, and it's not a script that any of you have ever seen before, but somehow you know what each of the words is. Starting from the point closest to the altar, the words are community, and then at the opposite end is solitude. Up in the, as I'm looking at it, upper left-hand corner is hope, and opposite that is acceptance. And then the other two are imagination and memory. And I need everybody to please roll initiative.
Uh-oh.
Oh, great.
I should have fucking knew it. This is why you don't trust
Oh.
places like this.
20.
Okay.
5.
22.
15.
Okay. Klowski was 15. All right. So each of you feels a compulsion, an overwhelming compulsion, to pick one of those words and effectively just go stand where it is. And you just have a sense of profound curiosity, like you want to know what's going on with this random word in this strange script on this weird eye more than you've ever wanted to know anything. And Klaus, since you rolled highest in initiative, you get to pick which word you go to first.
So sorry. Is there a specific feeling I get? Like for choosing which word? Or is it just
Not really. You get the sense that something about either the script or the spot that it's written on is magical in some way that you, even as a bard, actually, having been about a bit and being a magic user yourself, you do recognize that this is divine magic. But as far as a particular one of these words meaning anything beyond the obvious to you, it does not.
I feel like he would go to imagination.
Okay. Erev, you're next up.
Erev will go to solitude.
Okay. Klowski.
Lasky will go to hope.
And finally, Notlatch.
Notlatch will go to memory.
Okay. So basically, what happens starting with Klaus is as you step on the sigils of imagination, you just have this rush of ideas of things that nobody has tried in terms of trying to treat people who have the withering. In other words, goblins do have some rudimentary medicine, but you're flooded with ideas of things that you've never seen anybody do to try to help people who have been stricken with this plague. That like something's got to work. There's enough different herbs. There's enough different tonics. and for the most part, the goblins have just kind of accepted, oh, they're sick, that's about it. Next up in the order is Erev, and when you step on the Rune of Solitude, what you realize is that everyone who's passed from the Withering has effectively remained with their family and community. So it occurs to you that a lot of times when one member of a family has gotten sick, other members of the family have gotten sick shortly after. So if you were to start separating the sick people out from the others, that might be able to stop the spread. Klowski, on the Rune of Hope, it occurs to you that because when someone is obviously sick, the goblins have treated it as a foregone conclusion that they're going to pass. There hasn't really been efforts to do things like make them comfortable or make sure that they have enough to eat, keep them warm, things like that, and just a little bit more of a hopeful attitude about it could cause this to have a completely different outcome. And finally, Notlatch. On memory, you recall stories that you've heard of other times when disease has spread throughout the swamp and other places. And you do recall some of the medicinal remedies that people tried to use. And you have a sense that some of the knowledge of how to deal with the withering actually does already exist within the goblin community. Maybe if all of the grannies got together and shared their knowledge. And as quickly as this scene started, it abruptly ends. And you're back standing in this chapel, just overwhelmed by what you've experienced and seen, because I know what I described was fairly brief and abstract, but for each of you, this was a rush of images and memories and concepts that your happy little goblin brains had never really spent much time on before. So it's not just new ideas, but it's a different way of thinking.
Did you guys see all that too?
I saw lots of things. I didn't know medicine could be that way.
What do you mean?
There was a doozy on my end, and I don't like any of this.
The medicine, didn't you see all the different herbs and whatnot making medicine?
No.
But
I saw the I saw the other times it had happened, and that we might already have a way of dealing with it. We just don't know it just yet.
what about you two? Did you guys see something?
I saw
it
the
wasn't-
wisdom in isolation.
Okay, that's not much detail. I saw just the usual of people not really caring or wanting to help goblins because they're so weak and small. So. But they also didn't put much effort into even trying, so.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So should we?
Well, it sounds like Claus at least got the cure of some sorts from his vision.
Would I have actually understood and know how to make a cure now, or is it more of just something else?
It's more like each of you got some kind of insight on what you might do differently than what the goblins have been doing in order to treat this. So you don't necessarily have a formula for the cure, but each of you has some new ideas for what you might do to improve the situation.
Ooh.
We need to get home.
Yeah, I think
And
we need to tell somebody about this.
right. And we need to convince them to try these things. I need to speak to Granny.
Well, rather you than me, but we should go. This, yeah, even I can tell this is very important.
Okay, well then let's go. And Klasky will start heading toward the door.
So the night attendant is still standing there, and he's going to look at the four of you. He just does this very calm, almost beatific expression, and he's going to ask, what happened? You've all been just sort of standing there staring for a long time. I was getting a little bit worried. Are you okay?
How long were we standing there?
So he's going to point to the windows overhead, and essentially it looks like it's getting to be early morning.
Oh,
Well, fuck. Sorry, my language. It's already morning? We got here when it was basically nighttime. Ah, great. It's gonna be even rougher sneaking out.
magic is weird at times.
You sound like you just went on a trip with mushrooms.
No, I've done that before. This isn't like that.
Noted.
Klasky, do you have any sense of what your brother has gotten up to and while he's been out in the world, or is it something where it's mostly been left to your imagination? I guess that's a question for Klaus too. Have you filled your sister in on the details of your adventure?
Honestly, he probably hasn't been back home for very long.
I see
And
her as
so,
hearing like stories or rumors. And she just leaves it to her
yeah,
imagination and waits for him to answer.
it would probably be like this exact situation where he would mention, "Oh, I did mushrooms," and not really elaborate at all. So she would have heard little things here and there, but not many details or long stories.
And
Okay.
she takes it with a grain of salt because that's basically how she takes most things, because she doesn't fully believe people that they're fully telling the truth unless it's her siblings. Mostly she believes her little brother. But when it comes to Claus, it's like, oh, okay, unless proven otherwise, I don't really believe you, but cool. That's neat fact about you. Because she doesn't really know him.
Fair enough. Okay. Do Notlatch or Erev have anything to say about what's going on, or amount of time that's passed, or anything else?
We need to go fast. I doubt they've forgotten us from yesterday.
Yeah, that could be a problem. We'd better scurry on out of here.
Hey, Churchman, you want to do us a quick service and maybe help us escape the city? I'm sure it'll be quite the blessing to you from your god if you help us, if that's how it works, right?
So as you start to talk, you start to turn away from your talking to your brothers to say this to the monk. You realize he's not in the room anymore. And while that's going on, the front door swings open and a couple of clerics just casually walk in there chatting, and they come to an abrupt pause as they see the four of you standing in the middle of their temple. And one of them, the older of the two, is going to somewhat compose himself and just say, What are you doing? How did you get in here?
One of your brothers let us in.
I'm sorry, what are you talking about? The church was closed up, was locked for the night.
There was this old dude. He opened the servants' door for us.
What were you saying, Klaus?
The night attendant.
So the two clerics are going to look at each other, and then they're going to look at the four of you, and one of them will kneel and touch the ground and say, just one more time, please. Could you please tell us who let you in?
The night attendant.
Okay. So they're both going to take a step back, and they're somewhat wide-eyed, and they just kind of share a glance and then look back at you, and they don't immediately say or do anything. There's nothing remotely threatening about them in their posture. Just for context, they're clerics. They probably have some divine magic at their disposal. Klaus, you would especially know that, but they don't seem to be armed and armored or anything. But the most notable thing about them right now is their surprised and very baffled expressions.
There a problem?
The younger one is going to say, there is no night attendant.
At this point, Arrow is going to speak up and say, he sort of had us go pray on the giant eye thing, and we stood on some words and had some visions, apparently, and then he kind of disappeared.
At some point, one of you will glance at the ground and notice that effectively, when the cleric touched the ground, he initiated a zone of truth spell. But since you haven't lied to him, it hasn't caused you any problems. And the clerics are going to look at each other again, and the older one is going to say, it appears that our guests have Daenerys' blessing. So, what can we do for you right now?
If this is what a blessing feels like, I feel no difference. That's kind of sad. But we really need to get back to our home and get rid of the wither disease that's been taking people away. We were enlightened, I guess, by your god. So, yeah. Finger gun.
So the older cleric is going to sort of pull himself together, and he's going to rapidly fire off some instructions to the younger one, who is going to rummage around a little bit, and he's going to find what amounts to priestly clothing for you all to put on, so he can effectively smuggle you out of town as though you were some kind of pilgrims, which isn't that far from the truth, actually. Are you going to you're cooperating as they're doing this? Okay.
Imagining Notlatch just swimming in this massive robe.
All right, so he walks out with you, and you pretty uneventfully make your way to the, other than tripping over your robes, you pretty uneventfully make your way to the gate, and the town watcher, going to eye it with some curiosity, as this human with a bunch of 3-foot tall pilgrims approaches, but the monk is just going to raise his hand in a symbol of benediction and effectively, make like nothing's going on or nothing's wrong. Are either of you or any of you saying or doing anything as you're making your way to the gate, or are you just keeping your heads down and letting him handle everything?
Mm-hmm.
He's letting him do all the work.
Yep, Klasky
Same
is
here.
keeping her head down.
Okay. So as you pass over the threshold of the gate, you make your way a little way from the town, and the cleric is going to stop, and he's going to say, I don't have any idea what happened, other than you seem to have been touched by Daenerys. For him to have done that, whatever you're doing must have been a noble cause. Goblins are not known for their studiousness, and he's going to think for a moment and say, I mean no offense by that, just you all must know that you're not known for being the best read out of all of the races. Perhaps this can represent a change for you. In any case, be well. And he's going to bow slightly and start heading back toward the town.
I
Clouds
feel like I
give
need
you-
a hot bath or a mud bath after all that. Ugh. I feel icky. I don't like it, and I just want to go home.
Klaus gives a very exaggerated bow after the monk turns away.
Okay. Is there anything in particular you all want to do or try to do as you make your way back to the swamp?
Klaus is probably going to swing around his new rapier a little bit, try it out.
Klasky's just gonna keep watch as we walk.
There is somewhere we're just keeping watch.
Notlatch, are you doing anything in particular?
Notlatch isn't doing a very good job at keeping watch. He's just kind of busy thinking through everything that he just saw.
You make your way back fairly uneventfully and are able to make your way to Granny Grog's hovel and share your findings with her. Now, does anyone have any particular way that they want to word or present or otherwise convey the information that they're giving?
I'm just gonna let the others do the talking.
Hi, Granny. Well, we somehow survived a trip to the human town. I didn't like it. I feel kind of icky, but we apparently got a blessing from their god, and we stood on this weird eyeball where, blah. I'm sorry, I'm lost for words. This night watch guy that apparently doesn't exist at the temple we went to that you told us to go to. Yeah, he had us pray to a podium thing, a worship spot, and then an eyeball appeared and it had us step on different words on it. And each of us saw a different vision, it sounds like. Like, I got visions of reasons why we were never helped and what we should do. And each of us got a different vision.
Basically, we talk to a god.
So at that point, she's going to ask each of you for a detailed accounting of what insight this being gave you.
Klaus
Oh.
would be very detailed as much as possible. He's actually taking this pretty seriously compared to how he normally takes things.
Now, Latch, you had started to say something?
Yeah, I mean, it takes a while, but Notlatch gets the full details out.
Okay.
Bless
Yeah, it
his
was just-
heart.
What was that, Aerith?
Erev is basically just going, we apparently need to keep the sick away from the not sick in order to stop more people from getting sick. I am, in fact, the wisest goblin, as a reminder.
Yes. So thank you, all of you, for what you've done. This is a service to our people that is beyond measure, and I will inform everyone, and we will start right away. If anyone asks, tell them that you found a book in the human village that talked about how to treat these diseases. Don't tell them what you told me.
Yeah, that's probably for the best.
She has a
I feel
genuine.
like
Go ahead.
I feel like that'd even be as surprising to them as talking to a god, because not all goblins can read, especially from a human temple, but if that's what should be best, then we'll go that way.
She's going to lean forward, and so for context, even if a goblin truly cares about another goblin, there is a certain realism bordering on fatalism that they all share, that you all share, that you know that goblins just don't tend to live very long and tend to pass abruptly, often in comedic and or brutal ways. But you see a genuinely worried expression on her face, which you don't recall ever having seen from one of your own people before. You might have seen other races looking this concerned, but she's going to say, sense or not, our God is not an overly loving and definitely not an overly forgiving one. And letting it be known that you have communed with another deity, let's just leave that stone unturned for the time being.
Sounds good, Granny.
Fair enough. I'd rather not get another blessing of sorts. At this point, I'd feel better with a shot of lightning. So, knock on wood, that doesn't happen.
All right. So each of you is going to have an inspiration point. And the inspiration point is from a god of knowledge. You can use it however you want, but whatever the time comes to flavor it, then you can flavor it accordingly. Based on my knowledge of the group, for some of you, you will wait for the right moment until the campaign is over. and others of you will use it the very next time you roll for absolutely anything, and that's perfectly fine. That's up to you how you play your character and use stuff like that. But in any case, you have it. Now, in the days and weeks that follow your little foray into town, what you see, and I assume help with in the goblin community, is that the recommendations that you came up with and the insights you had get put to work. People start experimenting with different herbs to treat the sick. People start actually treating the sick rather than just sort of leaving them to their own devices. People are separating the sick from the healthy. And so the spread of the illness is drastically slowed. And people who were sick are starting to recover. And as a result of this, you gain a little bit of notoriety and a little bit of celebrity within the camp or within the swamp. How would your characters be responding to that situation? How would they feel about standing out a little bit and getting some recognition, really for all of you, probably for the first time, really? We'll start with Klaus.
He's loving it. He's loving being the hero. Probably using it as a way to flirt with girls. He's very much loving being the hero.
When people ask you how you accomplished what you accomplished, just in a sentence or two, what is it you're telling them?
Well, I practically had to fight my way through that human city, but it's all right. I'm pretty good with the blade, and he show off his rapier. Let's say, and then I can read pretty well. By the way, I know a lot of our people can't read, but I read very well, and I was able to read the book and figure out a lot of these things to help our people, because that's what heroes do.
All right. And Klowski, same question.
At a game? Wow. Okay. Anyway. that Klasky, like, sure, she understands she did something great and all, but she's kind of uncomfortable with all this attention on her, and she'll like purposely do different disguises and such, or try avoiding going out and about too much to avoid so much attention on her, because she got so used to being always on edge, always ready, stealing, doing her best to survive, being basically threatening and cold, and everyone mirroring 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 that to her as well. So that's how she's handling it. Like, occasionally she'll get cornered by people, I'm sure, but she'll just try to make the conversation quick and go. Or
Okay.
there's a few instances where she would only use it to advantage to like get more supplies or rations.
Okay, fair enough. Nutlatch, same question.
Yeah, Notlatch is even more uncomfortable with all of the attention. Like especially when if and when questions are being asked to him, he takes forever to answer the question because he's hoping that they just stop asking the question.
Fair enough. Okay. And finally, Erev.
Erev is largely just ignoring it for the most part and continuing about her typical routine.
So maybe not quite, maybe not intentionally, but maybe giving off that celebrity who's so cool about it that they just walk past the adoring crowd kind of vibe?
No, because when people get in her way, she is very, very vocal about how they need to get out of her way, or she will punch them out like she punched out that fighter at the beginning. She just very much wants to continue about her normal life.
Okay. So, Erev, your prowess combined with your willful lack of any people skills means that you're able to go about your time more or less uninterrupted. Notlatch, you're able to generally just avoid the situation largely. Klowski, it sounds like you're having an amount of interaction with all of this, and you are, I assume, keeping the secret that Granny told you to. So I'm going to need you to go ahead and make a deception check with advantage.
Sorry, I thought you said Klowski. Are you talking about me?
Talking about the sister.
Oh, okay.
Klowski, Ellie's character.
Yes. So that
Nope.
will be a unnatural 24.
Okay, yeah, you give a very compelling narrative about how your group found a scroll, read it, and had all of the information you needed. Now, Klaus, since you're a little bit more eagerly embracing this, along with any goblin girls who were impressed by the story, go ahead and make a deception check also, but without advantage.
Okay. Okay, that's a problem. Natural 1.
Oh.
Right.
Dude.
So it's not that your stories aren't compelling. I mean, you are a bard. You know how to tell a story. But because your past is traveling from place to place, telling stories to crowds, you don't necessarily know how to tell a story the same way twice. The same way when people who've already heard your story are still in earshot. So the cracks begin to show pretty quickly of the adoration the goblin community felt for you and your group, quickly giving way to them not trusting you and knowing that you're keeping something from them. You look like you were about to say something. What was going on?
Oh no.
Okay. And for the rest of the goblins in the group, this is going to mean that actually we're going to go ahead and start with. Sounds like Klowski is the Klasky is the most approachable of the others. One of the goblin women who you've known for a long time is actually going to approach you when you're out and say, "So, a few days ago, your brother told me that you had to fight your way into the city to steal a book with a bunch of human magic spells, including healing magic. But then when he was talking to Grilla, he said that you snuck in through the sewer and stole a scroll with an herbal remedy on it. So what happened?"
Oh, Claus. He tends to mix up a few things here and there just to get the attention on him. But he's a sucker for the ladies, so if he can tweak it a little bit, that's how it's gonna go. But it was definitely difficult getting into the human town. We had to like he used his charm to get us into the town as we hid in this wagon of sorts, and he honestly he basically led us to a safe spot, and we did almost have a bit of a fight in the market, but it cleared up fairly well after a bit of ruckus. And yeah, it was just some sneaking about, and we managed to get the book from this creepy old temple after some convincing and almost putting to sleep a attendant, but it's not a grand old adventuring story, really. I mean, it's definitely risky and it's terrifying. I mean, we almost lost Notlatch in the process because of this big old burly 6'3" piece of wonderfulness, of course. You know, humans. So, it was a doozy of a story, well, adventure, and we went through quite a lot and seen some things we probably shouldn't have seen. So, I wouldn't be surprised if he's just trying to tweak it a little bit for the sake of the women, you know? Not all of us are meant for tough, scary stories, and it's honestly not a believable one, considering how we live versus the humans.
So as you're talking, you can't help but notice a crowd forming, especially because you haven't been eager to share your story. Go ahead and give us a deception check.
Unnatural. Sorry, not unnatural. 19?
19? Okay. So about half of the people around you seem convinced, and about half look profoundly skeptical, but nobody really challenges it or does anything at the time. A little more time goes by. As in a little more time, I mean as in a few weeks. All four of you are getting the sense that the other goblins in the swamp are keeping some distance from you, and there's definitely an air of suspicion about them. And at the end of this couple of weeks' time, an embassy of hobgoblins, goblins, and bugbears arrive, but they don't arrive in a hostile fashion. You just hear the commotion of a group of a few dozen visitors arriving at the swamp and general excitement among the goblins about this group having arrived. So you're all aware of it as you're going about your day. How do you respond to that situation?
Oh, great. We literally just got things better. What's going on now? Klasky will keep a distance, but check out what's going on.
Okay.
Notlatch is definitely trying to keep himself hidden away in his in his little like space where he works.
Okay.
Klaus would be mingling and kind of trying to sneakily get as much information as he can about what's going on, just through like normal conversation.
Okay. And Arif?
Erev is watching from a distance.
Okay. So it sounds like the three of you who went to go see what's going on, you're essentially trying to avoid getting any attention to yourself. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
So some of the grannies do come out to greet this procession, and the interaction between them is a friendly one. There's some exchange of gifts and pleasantries and so forth, but at length, a hobgoblin steps forward and addresses the crowd, and in this booming voice, and this hobgoblin is dressed in priestly robes, but he has a lot of weaponry on him, and his holy symbol is a battle axe that looks like it's seen some use, and he looks like he's a veteran of combat. And he's going to, in just this booming voice, just announce to the swamp at large, "We have been informed by our Lord Magubliet that there are those among you who have consorted with other deities who would defy his ever-bleeding axe, who would defy his burning throne. As his chosen cleric, it is my duty to bring word to you that the infidel among you must be snuffed out, lest you incur his wrath." And I know it hasn't been quite the full 2 hours we usually go, but that does seem like a pretty good place to leave it for tonight.
Well, shit.
Give me a second, Ruby screaming.
Well, this will be fun. It's always nice pissing off a god.
All right, so that's a wonderful close to this story. If you guys missed out on the beginning part of this story, please go check out our link tree that is somewhere on the screen, below, what have you. And we will see all of you next week at the same time at 4 p.m. PST for episode 3 of this wonderful Goblin campaign DM'd by Benny. Be sure to check out our YouTube channels for our previous stories, as currently they are on pause, but we'll be starting up here soon. I hope you all have a good night, and we'll catch you around.
Bye.
Uh,